It's an irony that Claude Debussy hated the word Impressionism, because he's perhaps seen today as the ultimate Impressionist, a composer whose music floated away from traditional tonality, evoking summer afternoons, tempestuous seas, and the shimmering light of the moon in broad musical brushstrokes. In his short 55 years, Debussy changed the face of classical music as much as, and perhaps arguably even more, than that arch atonalist Schoenberg was doing over in Vienna. The important date for Debussy was 1894, the premiere in Paris of his orchestral work Prelude à l'après-midi d'une faune, the afternoon of a faun. The 20th century was barely a dot on the horizon, Stravinsky's Rite of Spring almost 20 years in the future. And yet, here was a work that was challenging all ideas of what music could do. In its description of a faun's failed attempt to seduce a couple of nymphs against the background of a sultry backdrop of reeds and rushes, Debussy wasn't simply telling a story. The orchestra became the story, the instruments inhabiting their characters in a way that simply hadn't been done before. And those shimmering orchestral colours, constantly shifting and melting into one another, were a revelation, the awakening of modern music, as one critic put it. Just 8 years later, Debussy was confounding the musical world once again with his opera Pelléas et Melisande, with its musical nods to Wagner. But it was actually anti-Wagner too, devoid of any perceptible plot, characterization, and with a mysterious score that bends and weaves, escaping the pull of gravity. And Debussy's experience of a Javanese gamelan orchestra, coupled with his love of Japanese art, gave his works deeper, exotic flavours. Take the piano preludes and the Cathedrale Engloutie or Voile, both with their chiming modal chords. And just listen to La Mer, Debussy's great evocation of the sea with its use of eastern scales and sounds, even if it was written down the road in Eastbourne, of all places. So was Debussy the most important composer of the 20th century? The arguments are strong. Composers such as Messiaen, Stravinsky, Ravel, Bartók and Webern all owed a huge debt to him. And his true greatness was perhaps that despite being a revolutionary, he was able to write music that was approachable and accessible to all audiences. The mark, you could say, of a musical genius. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe. Discover more classical music content at colstonhall.org/classical.